Absolutely. So yeah, hi everyone. A lot of familiar faces. So some of this may be redundant. Some of you have actually probably known me for longer than just this role. So great to see some folks I saw back in my Centerstone days. So but my role, the Director of System Transformation at the state, I started in July. So just now getting my feet under me with a lot of different projects. So my main focus with my work is the crisis continuum and CCBHC. So that's really my focus in working with my team at DMHA to stand up the 3 crisis pillars: the someone to call, a safe, someone to respond, and a safe place to be, and then also the CCBHC transformation that's happening in the near future with our state. So a lot of exciting stuff I get the opportunity to do, and so I'm honored to be here. What led me here was 15 years in community mental health. So I was with CBH back in the days, if anyone goes really far back, or even before that, was South Central Community Mental Health, I think was the name, but that was before my time even. But I was with CBH, and then I moved to Centerstone, and I did a ton of different roles when I was there. Was able to move through different parts of leadership within the community mental health system, ranging from residential services, ACT team, to integrated care was my last role with Centerstone. And then I was with IU Health for 4 years, where I had the opportunity to better understand hospital systems and outpatient and inpatient care within those systems, including the emergency department interface. So that's kind of my background, is all with operations, is leadership within practice. And so that's the lens I've brought to this role. So I've had a lot to learn on the state side. So never knew about procurement and all of the different ins and outs of contracts. But I'm quickly learning that side and applying my practice to that work. And so if you know me, you know I'm a relationship builder first and foremost. I believe that anything that we do starts with trust and knowing one another, because why else are we people, you know? And so if I haven't met you and you think you're doing something really great in your communities, I love site visits. I love getting to know your teams, your communities, and how the state can support the great work that you're doing. I'm also a purpose-driven person, so I have always done this work because I am truly invested in the well-being of the most vulnerable. And that comes from really my first job as a community-based case manager, working with individuals with serious mental illness in their homes. And from that point on, I realized how impactful the work the community mental health centers do, and really wanted to be a part of that for the rest of my career in whatever capacity that I could serve. And so every role I've taken on has been to help advocate, help create solutions that allow folks to live their best lives in systems that often don't allow for that. And so I just really appreciate and have an immense amount of gratitude, as Zoe was saying, for November, right? An immense amount of gratitude for each of you. This is not easy work. This is work that often goes unnoticed, unseen, and you're managing challenges that are insurmountable for most. So the fact that you're continuing to do this work day in and day out through financial challenges, through logistical challenges, staffing challenges, safety challenges, everything that comes with doing this work, I'm just exceptionally grateful for everything that you do, have done, and will continue to do. And hopefully we can do it in partnership together. So it's a little bit about me. So really, whatever questions you want to, I'm an open book. I guess my only caveat is the RFS is open, so I can't answer any questions about that. But everything else is pretty much, I'm an open book.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you, Lindsay. And thank you for sharing about your work within our system. I think it's absolutely wonderful that DMHA has been intentional on hiring folks that know community mental health. And so that is wonderful to have you in that role. talk with me a little bit. I know we have the RFS, we can't talk about that per se, but there are a couple other updates and successes that you've had outside of the RFS that I want to make sure this group is aware of. The first one that comes to mind is when we were on the call and you got the first email notification from CMS regarding the mobile waiver and service, and just what a success that was for you and your team and for us as providers as we're trying to build this. So maybe talk about some of those other things that this group might not be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so first and foremost, I kind of walked into this amazing DMHA team. So a lot of this I have got to just be a part of and watch and help like grow more. So the state plan amendment that Zoe's mentioning was creating a new provider type for Indiana, which is no easy feat, I found out. Luckily, all the heavy lifting pretty much happened before I got here. So I just helped get it across the finish line. But basically what this means is that mobile crisis teams are now a provider type for the state of Indiana, which is huge, right? So it not only created a provider type, it created a billing code and payment point for those services. And so I think one of the biggest successes is really centering that work, making sure that it's got a sustainable future. And also that we've had, I would say, gosh, if you haven't heard from our team, like I feel like we've really been like shaking the bushes to try to get folks to understand like designation is required. And just hearing everything that's happening within the state with mobile crisis, I think has been one of the biggest things that I've been able to be a part of. So like how many mobile crisis teams we have. We had 4 pilots, 2 community mental health centers pilot, Porter Stark and 4C. However, this is so much bigger than that. And I think most of you who are operating mobile crisis teams know that. And some are doing them in smaller capacities, others are more widespread, but we're really working with every single agency that's doing any form of mobile work to figure out how we can support you to reach that designation and then to start billing that code. We also are looking strategically for the state on how to help support downtime in perpetuity for groups that may or may not have a sustainable funding source once the contracts that are currently supporting the 15 additional sites, or if they didn't get that they don't have additional funding. We really want to make sure that there's a way to make agencies whole who are doing this work. And we also understand that this is very community specific. And so, when we look at the statute for mobile crisis teams, which is built into the designation and all of that, it is prescriptive in a couple of ways. However, beyond that, it is very flexible for communities to figure out solutions. And so we are really curious on what you're doing innovatively and with your resources. We know that most communities don't have additional resources to just stand up another service, especially if there's another entity standing it up. It ends up kind of robbing from Peter to pay Paul, that way used over saying, but we want to see what innovative approaches with collaboration are happening in communities as well, knowing that some of the dynamics here with city, county governments are interesting. I just want to lift that up. We see it, and some of them are great, and some of them seem to be kind of in a bit of a tension place with what agencies are standing up. So we're here as the state, sometimes being that kind of mediating body to help with solutions and to help problem solve. But ultimately, like I said, if you've got something really interesting going on in your community, we want to see it. And our team is really learning from all of you. So I kind of think about this as we're handing out a bunch of seed money. If you think of this as kind of a startup, and we're seeing how different communities and agencies are using that money to do something creative, and we want to see what works. And back to what Zoe was saying around like learning from each other in a statewide approach, that is really something we're trying to do together. So I know many of you are on our office hours we host monthly for this work. And the hope for that is that we're helping each other build something that works, and also that this is a bottom-up approach. I think if you're on the last one, we're having providers help us build the operations manuals for these, that this isn't the state saying, hey, this is how you should operate. We're like, we think there's a lot of ways to operate this pretty well. We want to hear from the folks doing this on the ground, how they're operating this, and let's build this into the manual so that way others can learn from you, and we're not creating something that doesn't make sense for us.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I cannot stress enough the importance for all of you to share the work that you're doing with those crisis stabilization funds and the mobile assessment. Please also share that with Leanne Jordan. She is our Director of Communications and Membership. And what we are doing is building those into our newsletter, because keep in mind that newsletter now goes to every county official. And so if we can get all this great work that's going on, we're changing the narrative as we're building this so that we can have positive supports in place and long-term sustainability. So Lindsay and I really connect on that. And so thank you for being at those openings. I know Amanda and I got to hit a wall at Bill's place at Regional. That was wonderful. I know we've been to several others, but Bowen's is coming up. We want to be present, the Indiana Council and DMHA, to help in sharing the good news that is taking place. Lindsay, I've always really admired your work that you've done with ACT, and I see several ACT folks on here that have had a history with ACT, and they've been the ones keeping that service alive, especially some of the services within our group homes. Do you want to share some of your thoughts around that, not only with CCBHC, but then also maybe how you are seeing the group homes and some other things remain sustainable amongst CCBHC?
Yeah, and I think some of the work with the ACT team, and I want to preface this that we were not ACT to Fidelity. So when I entered the ACT scene, the funding from the state had gone away. However, Centerstone and a couple of sites, Bloomington is where I'm from. So I'm from Bloomington, everyone. So still live here. So we had an ACT team in Bloomington that was ACT-like. So I know a lot of you are doing mostly that. I think just because of logistics, hiring, resources, funding for those teams. So we did kind of a model with 100 clients, med monitoring and nursing. So we had the basic foundation of it, but to me, it was some of the most fun work that I've ever done and fulfilling. I think a lot of times that model can be challenging, but with the right team and the right staff who are really passionate about it, it can be bi-directionally amazing work. So just to speak to that I really believe in that model. I think it's not only been proven effective time and time again, it also is just something that I think is essential for individuals with that level of functional impairment from serious mental illness and or addictive disorders. So and then residential services, man, like I don't know, my Centerstone folks, I see a couple, so tell Dan I said hi. Dan McNeely was in my first interview and I had no idea what I was interviewing for. I just needed a job. That's my just full transparency. I was 21 and I needed to pay rent. So they believed in me, Dan McNeely, Greg Clark, a couple of folks that really just took a chance on somebody who was brand new and then developed me actually through the residential system. So my first leadership role at Centerstone was managing our subacute unit and working with a 12-bed, 24/7 unit that helped individuals coming out of state hospitals, trying to serve individuals who may be going to a state hospital if there wasn't a subacute available. And sadly, that became unsustainable, right? That model or that level of care. And so it's been a gaping hole in the community. I don't know how many times when I was at IU Health, just recently on the inpatient unit, our inpatient team would be like, if there was only a TCF, which was the transitional care facility, for which was the subacute unit's name, like it was a huge community benefit. And it really helped individuals get to a lower level of care sooner and avoid a higher level of care. It was a critical. So in my mind, like that doesn't go away, like that history, that passion doesn't go away. I think on our end, we're trying to figure out what are going to be those solutions for Indiana to support those different levels of care. Really being able to divert as much as possible from the state hospital system. The state is vested in that. Like that's the only benefit is like, the state is absolutely vested in not having state hospital, to having state hospital throughput, right? So like there's a lot of benefit to figuring this out, both for our communities and also for just state operations. Like the state needs this part of the continuum to operate fully. So can't really speak too much around like exactly how that will weave into CCBHC, just because I gotta keep myself, I'm too new to know what I can and cannot say, so I just don't say anything. But soon enough we will be able to. But it is on all of our radar as far as all of the state folks and really trying to figure this out. What is able to be supported by CCBHC, what still falls outside of it, and how are we going to support that? I don't think anyone is like, yeah, we're just gonna, this is just gonna fade away. No, I mean, that's not how it works. I mean, we know that there's still gonna absolutely be this need for individuals to have safe, stable housing that has support at all times for them to meet their basic needs. And so, yeah, I would love to see actually, if I had a magic wand, is the ability to have subacute back too. I mean, but I can't endorse that as the state. That's just Lindsay talking. But I just found that as an essential level of care and really found it exceptionally helpful in individuals being able to get to the next level where they didn't have to continually go through an acute unit over and over again, and then potentially go into a state hospital system for months and up to a couple years, where we just, provided a safe place for them to constantly have help. So anyway, that's, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about this level of care. It's really where I developed my leadership, was within residential and with ACT teams, and absolutely am dedicated to making sure that continues and actually grows in our state.
Wonderful. Thank you. I just think that's really important for our members to hear as well. And so now with looking at the time, I wanted to open it up for questions. If you can just be respectful around the RFS component. I did send out the most updated question and answers that were posted yesterday to all of you. So if there are still questions, I know that email address is still available, and I think there's still going to be answers, right, Lindsay? It's not like we're cut off, right?
Well, the official answers as it relates to RFS, that window closed.
Okay.
So, yeah. Now there's still the general CCBHC question, and I rely on our procurement experts. They help us navigate through this.
There's
just a lot of
general email if you guys have that as it pertains. So, but any other questions for Lindsay? Yes, Katie. Oh, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Okay. Can you give us an update on the 988 integration and kind of what the timeline is with that?
Can come off you. That's a great question. Yes. So this has been, and I'm sure my team has mixed feelings on my level of drive. So if you've ever worked with me, I'm very like action all the time, like all the time. So this is like our marching orders for my team of like, we are interoperating this system in the next 6 months. So we have started having these conversations more directly, intentionally with the call center. So just for some additional context here, and I don't want to take too much time, I'll be brief, but the 988 call centers stood up and transitioned from National Suicide Prevention Lifelines to this 988 line in an exceptionally fast time. And so that undertaking for them was a lot. They had to increase their staff. There was a huge amount that they had to do in the past year and a half. And so the mobile integration is a new challenge for them. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we don't, like we said, these are unique across the state. Different communities have different amount of resources. Right now, they have different operating times. So not every community has a 24/7 response. And so us figuring out how to do this, but our plan is actually, we're meeting this week with the call centers and the pilots to really outline our goals and timelines for this interoperability work. And the timelines right now are looking into by the end of Q1 of 2024, we will have seen a significant increase in mobile crisis teams integrated with the 988 system. Right now, the general parameters that we're using as designation kind of unlocks the door to interoperation just because we needed something. Our team isn't wedded to that necessarily. It's just that would be a number that we think the call centers could take on. And so we're really hoping to have that. And my goal is to have at least 10 teams designated by the end of this year. So that my team knows that that's our goal. We have 2 active, and we've probably got another 5 or 6 that are really, really close. So I think we are going to reach that 10 by the end of the year goal. And so really that Q1 would be interoperating those 10 plus designated sites into the 988 system.
Great question. Any other questions for Lindsay in our last few minutes together? She does such a great job at communicating that everything is answered, right? So,
Well, so I have a question for everyone, and this is probably just open-ended. I don't expect you all to respond, but I think a question that I have for you being leaders in community mental health and being leaders within your communities is just what continuing to center your biggest pain points for us to give visibility. I know that a lot of change creates a lot of fear. There's a ton of change going on right now. It's in my title. So what I'm curious about, and if this is just sending me an email, scheduling a 30-minute check-in, which I've done with several of you, don't hesitate to do that, because what I really am curious about is what's holding your agency back or what is causing the most fear, because I think that would help to kind of get that out of the way a bit, get it on our radar, and then also help us move through to being innovative through this transformation. So that was it.
That's a great question. So if you guys want to pay that forward to Lindsay so that she can have those on her radar. I know I can think of several, but if you want to also pay that forward, that would be fantastic. So just in the interest of time, I sent out a very comprehensive update yesterday, so you should have everything you need from the Indiana Council. I do want to say, because Katie is on, Katie is our new board chair, Katie Adams. She's waving to everyone. So really looking forward to her leadership in that role. And thanks, Suzanne Kozel, since there's a number of Centerstone folks on as well, for her leadership up until that point. We do also have a very exciting training opportunity that our Racial Equity and Leadership Committee, I see several of you on as well, is bringing for no cost. It is racial ethics and anti-oppressive response. And so that is in our email update. And so I'm really thankful for that group, as well as Blue and Company and the Indiana Council CFO. I think I saw Tim Crockett at Aspire as our chair there, is working on a CCBHC cost reporting training on December 5th, and we are collaborating with the state on that as well. And then December 13th is going to be our webinar with court services regarding House Bill 1006. And then I cannot end without saying, save the date. We are changing it up. We are going to the State House on a Monday, February 5th. And that is because they will be there. And it's right before bills cross over. So the timing cannot be better. Save the date to be there for our legislative day. Come learn about how to advocate, and then come over with us to have lunch with our legislators. And then now I want to turn it over to Kiki to announce who our Starbucks winner is.
Well, this was wonderful to be a part of.
Yeah.
Our winner today, who I think might have already jumped off, unfortunately, is Jennifer Emmons. So, yay, Jennifer.
Yay, Jennifer, we'll make sure to get that to her. And then if we can raise our cups, yes, I do have my fancy adult and child cup here representing. So if we can raise our cups and toast to our system and to each other, thank you for the great work you all do. If there's anything you need, you know where to find us. Have a fantastic day. Appreciate all of you. Take care.